Good afternoon, every one of you. Good afternoon.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah, are you getting me, Rafi?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Okay. The proceedings will start in few minutes. Actually,
Sure,
I am also waiting for Acharya garu came into the picture. Okay. Sir,
yes.
good afternoon, sir. This is Professor Srinivas, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing, sir?
Fine.
Thank you for accepting our invitation, sir. Almost everybody is online. We can start our proceedings, it seems. Just 2 minutes, sir. We will start. Shall we start, Rajesh?
Sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sarita? Shall we start? Subraidu must be online, it seems. Subraidu is there. Okay. Respected Professor Acharya garu and our beloved Dr. Y. Subraidu, Board of Studies Chairman, and another important person from our department, Professor Dr. S.V. Subbareddy, who is coordinator of this department, and Professor S. Raghunath Reddy garu, Vice Principal of our University College, and my dear students. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are here to conduct the proceedings of Mr. D. Rajesh Babu, who is research scholar in our department. He did his PhD under my guidance on the topic rational and behavioral attitude of Indian stock market investors. He did a comparative study between Bangalore and Anantapur town. He tried to brought out certain important conclusions, and he has done very extensive work, and beyond my expectation. He worked well, and today in this Viva session, he is going to present his thesis before the August gathering, and then our external examiner, Professor Acharya garu, will conduct the proceedings. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor T. Srinivas garu, for external exam to conduct this PhD exam.
Sir, shall we start, sir?
Yes. I now request Mr.
Rajesh
Babu to start your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone, one and all. Myself, T. Rajesh Babu, research scholar under the guidance of Professor T. Srinivas sir, Dean Faculty of Commerce, Law and Management, Department of Business Management. Today, my PhD Viva was presentation on rational and behavioral attitude of Indian stock market investors, a comparative study. On this occasion, I welcome to Professor G.V.R.K. Acharya garu, School of Management Studies, University of Hyderabad, external examiner for PhD Open Viva was. I welcome to my research supervisor, Sir Professor T. Srinivas garu, Dean Faculty of Commerce, Law and Management, Department of Business Management, Yogavemana University, Kadapa. On this occasion, I welcome to Dr. Y. Subbarayadu Sir Garu, Chairman, BOS Board of Studies, Department of Business Management, Yogavemana University. Dr. S.V. Subbareddy Sir, I welcome to Sir, Coordinator, Department of Business Management, Yogavemana University, Kadapa. And I want to address, welcome Professor S. Raghunath Reddy Garu, Vice Principal, Yogavemana University, Kadapa, and remaining business management faculty members and commerce department faculty members and all other faculty members and students. And welcome to all my PhD was presentation. Good afternoon, one and all, once again. And on this, I want to start my presentation. Starting with my structure of the thesis. My thesis categorized with 6 chapters. The first chapter is related to the introduction related to the stock market and the introduction related to the behavioral finance. And the second chapter is related to the review of literature related to the Indian stock market and other things of Indian stock market and major contributors, and I have discussed in this review of literature. And another chapter 3 is related to the research methodology related to my descriptive research study, and remaining sampling procedures and remaining things are kept in research methodology, objectives and research model, and remaining things I kept in the study. And chapter 4 is related to the data analysis and discussion of my work, research work. And chapter 5 is related to the comparative study of Anantapur town and Bangalore city. And chapter 6, I kept findings, suggestions, conclusion, scope for further research. This is the structure of my thesis. I want to start with this introduction. Stock market is also known as a secondary market, and where the traders and investors show interest for investing their money in order to get maximizing the profits and also minimizing the losses. And it's all about stock market is depending upon the market actions and reactions during period of time. And there are so many factors that are influencing for the investor for buying the shares over period of time in order to maximize the return on investments. And nowadays, stock market, most of the people are aware, and most of the people are educated, and they're doing for their stock market investment. They started doing for stock market investments, but there is a lot of things yet to be done, and so many investments are coming towards in Indian scenario, especially if you take it for foreign institutional investors, and if you take it for domestic institutional investors and coming forward and investing their money in the stock market in order to get the benefit over a period of time, either it may be in short period of time and or in long period of time, and they want to invest their money and in order to get the benefit in the market. And of course, there will be so many actions and reactions in the market. And my studies related to the rational and behavioral attitude of investors in the Indian stock market about Anantapur town and Bangalore city. The statement, coming to statement of the problem is undergone with this different contributors made already in behavioral finance and rational investment decisions. And it is related to the statement 1999 is mentioned about the systematically beat the market through the efficient market analysis, efficient market hypothesis. And if you take it for Schifrin 2000 also contributed related to the various behavioral models, and Schilfer 2000 also contributed various things, and Kahneman Tawasaki also contributed related to the behavioral finance. It is made to create the problem and identify the problem especially in stock market scenario. And research gap is identified in the stock market through the proper understanding the review of literature and proper existing the literature available in the different set of forms. And so many contributors, they contributed towards the stock market trading and new issue market operations and portable investment in shares and risk and return in the commodity derivative market with reference to India. But certainly, I identified the things that is related about mixing the scenario of impact of rational and behavioral factors that influence the individual investors of Indian stock market. Hence, the studies has been taken up. Need for the study, and the study is very much is needed in present contemporary scenario in order to understand the attitude of the different set of the investors and also their decision making, rational decision making and irrational decision making in the Indian stock market scenario. And here the small and individual investors are identified in order to undertake the work and in order to undertake their emotions and in order to understand their biases and in order to understand their decision making towards the Indian stock market. During the study, there some research questions are identified in the study. Whether there is a impact of rational and behavioral variables on individual investment decision making at the Indian stock market. That is one of the research questions which is raised. And another one is at which impact levels, if any, do the rational and behavioral factors influence the individual investment decisions at the Indian stock market. Based upon the research questions, certain objectives are framed for carrying the research activity. The first objective is to identify the town and Bangalore city. Second objective is to develop the structural model with a rational and behavioral attitude, risk perception, investment intention, and investor behavior, which measure the investor attitude in Anantapur town and Bangalore city. Third objective is related to measure the direct and indirect effects of investors' rational attitude and behavioral attitude on their investment behavior. Fourth objective is to compare the investor rational attitude and behavioral attitude between the investors of Anantapur town and Bangalore city. So these are the four objectives are undertaken for the study. Research, certain conceptual research model is framed after identifying the certain objectives. The research model contains 4 independent variables, 1 dependent variable, and 2 mediators. 4 independent variables are rational attitude, heuristic factors, prospect factors, and personal factors are the independent variables. Risk perception and investment intention is considered for the mediators for the study, and investment decision is considered as a dependent variable for the study. These 4 independent variables are also known as exogenous variables, and investment decision is also known as endogenous variable according to the same scenario. Hypothesis of the study. For the undertaking of the study, and totally 34 hypotheses created in order to get a better results. With grouping the items variable wise, and rational attitude has around seven hypotheses. 7 hypotheses framed for the rational attitude to know the significant levels. And heuristic behavior wise, there are 7 hypotheses are framed in heuristic behavior to know the significant positive effect or not. And prospective behavior, in order to know the prospective behavior, certain hypotheses are framed around 7 hypotheses are framed to measure direct effect and indirect effect, and comparing the 2 groups. And personal factors, also one of the variable, independent variable, where certain hypotheses are generated, around 7 hypotheses generated. And again, the mediator risk perception two hypotheses framed, and investment intention is framed two hypotheses, and investment decision making is framed one hypothesis. Questionnaire. The questionnaire is divided into certain parts: part A, part B, part C, and part C. So part A contains some socio-economic, demographic, and economic variables related information is kept to know the investor profile, gender, age group, education, employment, annual income, duration of investing in stock, annual saving is considered in part A in order to know the socio-economic status of the investors, to identify the socio-economic status of the investor. And part B is related to the rational factors. The rational factors is related to the sub factors are presented in the questionnaire in order to collect the data, general information, company management, details in prospectus, project details, and financial parameters factors are considered. And this variable taken from the adapted scale Siemens 1976 with rationality and some other contributors. Part C. Part C is related to the heuristic factors, and again heuristic factors also having some sub factors or sub constructs related to the representativeness, herd behavior, overconfidence, anchoring, and availability of heuristic factors. And part C, again, the prospect factors are there to influence on, to check the influence on investment decision making. Loss aversion is one of the sub factor, regret aversion, mental accounting, cognitive dissonance factor. Part C is related to the personality factor. Again, the personality factor is having some set of sub-factors: self-esteem, emotional experience, ability to invest, optimism, self-efficacy, ambitions, and risk tolerance factors. Two more mediators considered for the study: investor risk perception factor, investment decision making, investor investment intention. Research design. Here the research design for the study is undertaken for the descriptive nature. The descriptive study is related to the to adopted a qualitative and quantitative approach, and certain sampling units selected from respective Anantapur town and Bangalore city in order to know the investor decision making rational and behavioral attitude of the investors. And the target population have been identified in two geographical areas, Anantapur town and Bangalore city. Sampling method. Here the sampling method, which is adapted for probability sampling, undertaken probability sampling. Among probability sampling, stratified random sampling is selected for doing the study, for carrying the study. Here the sample design. The sample design is related to the total population. The total population is taken for the study for the year of 2019. In Anantapur town, total population is identified 42,338 demat account holders, and Bangalore city around 75,439 demat account holders is identified in 2019. And out of that, we have considered that is a finite population from according to the amendments 1967. It is a finite population which is identified in order to estimate the minimum sample size by applying the formula. After applying the formula, 396 number is came for the Anantapur, and Bangalore is 397 came. For that, we have adopted a stratified random sampling for carrying the research activity, and also for doing the justification of the sampling and carrying 412, the minimum sample for the carrying the study for analyzing the data. Here, the table is explains all about the total population, the questionnaire distributed. Here, the identified five major institutions are identified: Motilal Oswal, Sharekhan, ICICI Direct, Kotak Securities, Carway Stock Broking Limited, 5 firms identified in order to collect the data in the year of 2019. Total population for Anantapur town, 42,338. Questionnaires distributed 450, and valid questionnaires received 412 for carrying the analysis. In the same way, I have identified 75,439 demat account holders, and 450 questionnaires are distributed for carrying the analysis. 412 is identified for the sample size in order to carrying the analysis. 412 is taken for the consideration of the study, and 412 is carried for the two areas. Same number is carried 412 for Anantapur town and Bangalore city in order to get good and accurate results in the analysis. Data collection is selected for this study is primary data and as well as for the secondary data. The primary data which is collected from the individual investors from the 5 respective broking firms, Anantapur town and Bangalore city. The secondary data which is collected from different set of journals, periodicals, newspapers, circulars, reports, books and websites for carrying the secondary data. And textbooks and some other things also used, websites and some other things also used for the carrying the secondary data. The instrument for data collection, questionnaire, interviews, telephone, internet, and mails used for collecting the data. Here, some statistical tools used for applying the analysis. Some statistical tools used SPSS 25, AMOS 26 in order to carrying the structural equation modeling. And also did for descriptive statistics. Under descriptive statistics, where we applied for frequencies. Frequencies is used for to identify the socio-economic status of the investors, profile of the investors by considering the demographic factors for understanding the age group and income levels, annual savings and gender, and duration of investment in stocks and education and employment over a period of time from the respective investors in 2 geographical areas. And independent sample t-test is carried forward to identify the comparison of 2 groups of Anantapur town and Bangalore city. Independent sample t-test is undertaken for conducting the test. From hypothesis 28 to hypothesis 34 to 34, around 7 hypotheses used for carrying the independent sample test in the study. And the structure equation modeling used for confirmatory factor analysis and path analysis using that. And here the structure equation modeling for framing structure equation modeling, the 2 sections divided. First one is section A, measurement model, and section B is construction of a structure equation modeling. Scope for the study. Here there is a scope is there for carrying the research activity, especially in Anantapur town and Bangalore city, based upon the research gap and based upon the objectives and based upon the existing literature support. The limitations of the study, since the study is a sampling based undertaken in Anantapur town and Bangalore city, and finding of the study may be the limitations of generalization to entire population. The research had 824 individual investors with a sample size. Refiner outcomes could be obtained by larger sample size, although attempts were made to make the representative sample. The stratified random sampling method of sampling was applied, and only Anantapur town and Bangalore city in India is limited for the study, and where it is the result cannot be calculated on the basis of the whole stock market system. And while conducting the survey from different respondents about their feelings and opinions, some articulation error may have crept in the study. Some respondents may not be aware of certain latest procedure and aspects of the stock market, and few respondents were hesitant to give details. There might be sense of bias crept in answers given by the respondents. The conclusion may or may not be generalized since the study is confined to Anantapur town and Bangalore city only. Here, the demographic and economic profile of the investors of 2 geographical areas, Anantapur town and Bangalore city. And here, where we can find the male and female, and approximately more male people having investing decision in the stock market. And if you take it for age group, between age group around between 31 to 40 years, we can find so many people are investing in the stock market and investing decision making. And if you take for education wise, and education wise, undergraduates are more participative. Employment, and if you take it for the employment, and more salaried people are showing the interest towards stock market investments for the investment concern. And when it comes into the annual income around 59% is there. People who are above 3 lakhs to between 3 lakhs to 6 lakhs. And the duration of the investment is around, for most of the time, they are showing between 2 years to 4 years with a 45%. And here the structural model is developed from the initially from Section A measurement model. Confirmatory factor analysis is adopted, and structural model is developed based upon the independent and dependent variables. It is related to the conceptual model, which is already framed in the study. Here the structural model is again, it contains 4 independent variables: rational attitude, heuristic factors, prospect factors, and personal factors. And each factor is having some sub factors. And here 2 mediators are there: risk and investment. And investment decision is related to the dependent variable, which is endogenous variable. And here the factor loadings are met the criteria. And path loadings are also having met the criteria and having a standard coefficient betas values. Here, the discriminant validity of latent constructs are reached more than 0.7. More than 0.7, it is reached, which is having a model fit for the study. Here, some indices. Some 9 indices are identified. The minimum measurement for the construction of the structure equation model and modeling, which is fit the model, GFI and AGFI, and the remaining models are above 0.9, which is met the minimum criteria. And also RMCA, SCA is less than 0.08, 0.05 is identified. And here the hypothesis result is kept in order to know the direct and indirect effect of individual investors. And here totally 34 hypotheses are considered for the study. Out of 34 hypotheses, 7 hypotheses are considered in order to know the assessment of direct and indirect effects. Direct effects which we can consider for the rational attitude and the risk perception, and all having a positive and significant effect between rational attitude and risk perception. And most of the hypotheses got a good result, having the positive and significant effect between rational attitude and investment intention, heuristic factors, and risk perception, and which is having a less than significance value. Significance value which is considered for the 0.05, and most of the time is 0.05 is having a more positive and significant effect. And those are having above 0.05 more significant level, it is not considered that has not a significant positively effective between rational attitude and investment decisions. So which is the p-value is more than 0.05. 0.254, it is greater than 0.05. 0.221 is greater than 0.05. 0.356 is greater than 0.05. 0.332 is greater than 0.05. Hence, this hypothesis has not significant and positive effect between the direct effect. And here, in order to identify the indirect effect is identified through rational attitude, risk perception in the investment decision is having a positive and significant effect, because the p-value is less than 0.05, the significance level. Hence, the hypothesis is supported. And rational attitude and investor intention and investment decision is also having a significant and positive effect, which is significance value is less than 0.05. Hence, the hypothesis is supported. And like that, and we have framed totally for 27 hypotheses in order to identify the direct and indirect effect of investors' behavior. And the remaining hypotheses from hypothesis 28 to 34 is used for the independent sample t-test. Study findings. For study findings, the first objective is to identify the socio-economic status of investors in study area. Here, the gender in the study revealed that Anantapur town and Bangalore city major respondents male only. And age-wise, Anantapur town is having 44.9% of the respondents belong to age of 31 to between 40 years. Therefore, approximately higher of the respondents belong to the age group of 31 to 40 years. As per the Bangalore city data, it is observed that 49% of the respondents belong to the age group of 31 years to 40 years. Therefore, approximately higher respondents belong to the age group of 31 to 40 years. Education. 37.1% Anantapur town respondents are undergraduates and 50.7% Bangalore city respondents are undergraduates. Employment. 51.5% of the respondents Anantapur town and salaried employees and 68% respondents are Bangalore city. Annual income. 52.4% respondents of Anantapur town are undertaken for between the 3 lakhs to 6 lakhs annual income group, and 59.5% of the respondents are Bangalore city are undertaken between 3 lakhs to 6 lakhs annual income group. Duration of investments in stocks. From the frequency statistics, Anantapur town, 47.1% of the respondents are having less than 2 years in investing in the stock. As per the Bangalore city data, 45.1% of the respondents are having a 2 to 4 years duration in investments in stocks. Annual savings from the Anantapur town frequency statistics, 44.7% of the respondents are having up to 30,000 as the annual savings, whereas 48.8% of the respondents Bangalore city are in the range of 30,000, 60,000 as annual savings. Objective 2, to develop the conceptual model with respect to the investor rational attitude, behavioral attitude factors, risk perception, investment intention, and investor decision making. The rational attitude construct was adapted from the work Siemens Rationality Decision Making, the process of deciding 1976, Pharma Igni Efficient Capital Market in 1970. Total 40 items are identified in the study for the carrying the rational attitude construct. For carrying the heuristic factor construct, total number of items are identified, 30 items are identified, and prospect factors and total number of 10 items are suitable for the study. And personality factors. Personality factors is related to 40 items are covering 6 factors, including self-esteem, emotional experience, ability to invest, motivation, self-efficacy, and ambitions. And investor decision making and risk factor behavior scale is adopted for the carrying the CFA, confirmatory factor analysis. For examining the direct and indirect effect of investor rational attitude on the risk perception, investment intention, investor decision, hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2, 3, and 16 and 20 were formulated. The results of the hypothesis stated that the investor rational attitude has direct effect on their risk perception and investment intention. It is also observed that rational attitude has only indirect effect on the investor decision making through risk perception and investment intention. For examining the direct and indirect effects of the investor heuristic behavior on the risk perception, investment intention and investment decision, hypothesis 4, hypothesis 5, 6, and 17, and 21 were formulated. For examining the direct and indirect effects, hypothesis 7, 8, 9, and 18, and 22 were formulated in order to get the results. So it is also observed that prospect behavior has only indirect effect on investor decision through risk perception and investment intention. So H7, H8, H9, H18, H hypothesis 22 and 26 were duly supported. Objective 4. To make the comparison with respect to investor rational attitude, behavioral attitude factors, risk perception, investment intention, and investor decision making between Anantapur town and Bangalore city. Here, hypothesis 28, it is found from the result Bangalore city investors are more superior than Anantapur town investors. The huge difference is found aspect of general information, details in prospectus, and significant difference are found remaining aspects such as company management, project details, and financial parameters. Hence, this hypothesis is supported. Hypothesis 29, it is found from the result of the Bangalore city investors are higher than Anantapur town and investors. Huge difference is found aspect of availability heuristics, overconfidence, and representativeness, and significance difference are found remaining aspects such as herd behavior. Hypothesis 30. It is found the results of the Bangalore city investors having highest level of prospectivity behavior than Anantapur town investors. Hypothesis 31. It is found the result of that Bangalore city investors are more superior than Anantapur town investors. Hence, the hypothesis is supported. And hypothesis 32. It is found from the results that Bangalore city investors are perceiving high risk highly than Anantapur town investors. Hypothesis 33, it is found from the results that Bangalore city investors are having high intentions of investing than Anantapur. Hypothesis 34, it is found that results that Bangalore city investors are more superior than Anantapur town and investors. Hypothesis supported. Suggestions to improve the investor decision making. Rational factors, general information, company management details, and prospectus, project details, and financial parameters are essential to make the investment decision making in the Indian stock market. Rational investment decision in Bangalore city is always superior to Anantapur town and investors to collect the different details for enhancing the better returns on investments. Risk mitigation is well managed through rational factors implementation in the Indian stock market. In the results showing direct effects of rational attitude of investors have to improve on Indian stock market in decisions. Investors have to reduce the heuristic factors biases such as representativeness, herd behavior, overconfidence, anchoring, and availability heuristics while investing in the Indian stock market investment decision making. Suggestions to Anantapur town investors. Anantapur town investors have to equip more skills by comparing the general information, details in prospectus, company management, project details, and financial parameters. Anantapur town investors should reduce more behavioral biases compared to Bangalore city investors. Investment behavior found huge difference is found in aspects of availability heuristics and overconfidence and remaining factors. Anantapur town investors have to equip. Suggestion to Bangalore city investors. Bangalore city investors are more superior to Anantapur investors. A huge difference found in aspect of general information and remaining aspects. It is found the result Bangalore city investors are having the highest prospectivity behavior than Anantapur town and Bangalore city. Conclusion. A large amount of evidence has been developed in the last few decades indicating that people are not rational and markets are not efficient. Behavioral finance does not require individuals to respond rationally. The combination of emotions and cognitive biases with the models of standard finance is behavioral finance. The present study is investigated the nature of investors' rational attitude in the Indian stock market, combining the cognitive errors and emotional biases among the individual investors residing Anantapur town and Bangalore city with behavioral attitude. Besides, the confirmatory factor analysis was conducted to check the authenticity of the constructs. Two mediators considered for the study investment intention of investors, risk perception on investor decision making. Sample consists of 824 individual investors. The results of the CFA showed that both convergent and discriminate validity of the constructs were available. Furthermore, a good match is also found COFA model. Structure equation modeling is also analyzed the structural relationship between the psychological biases and rational factors and the decision-making methods. STEM results showed that rational and behavioral attitude variables the first stage of the decision-making process. Using 9 indices, CMIN, DF, CFI, GFI, AGFI, RMR, RMCAA, fit for the SM model is examined. Rational and behavioral attitude factors shown the significant difference between Anantapur town and Bangalore city in most of the scenarios in the study. Bangalore city investors are reduced the behavioral biases and enhance the rational activity of the Indian stock market investments compared to Anantapur town investors. Scope for further study. The various rational and behavioral variables have been used in analysis to describe their effect on the decision making of stock market investment to validate the above designed model of the study. With the larger sample size and more diversity of the respondents, further research is needed. Further research is also proposed to enhance the measurement of investor attitude towards stock market investment as well as adjust them to match the case of various security markets and products. Further study is also proposed to apply the attitude of investors to investigate the attitude that affect the decision of institutional investors on the stock exchanges. These studies will help to assess the suitability of the application of behavioral finance for all forms of security markets with all investor components. This research has been analyzed only in Anantapur town and Bangalore city in India. The same attitude towards investors can also be seen in other areas. The better study can be conducted in collaboration with the brokerage houses. A small number of biases may be extensively investigated to gain further insight into them. Macro studies in behavioral finance that analyze the behavior of markets of individuals can be carried out. Investor behavior can be best analyzed by integrating both primary and secondary data. In association with brokerage houses, good study can be conducted. Thank you. Thank you.
Rajesh, for giving a nice presentation. Good study. It is really, as Professor Srinivas said, there is extensive study done on the topic that you have selected. Before I conduct the proceedings, I request audience to ask questions. This thesis to clarify any suggestions, anything. Faculty, from faculty side.
Okay, sir.
Questions from faculty side. Dr. Bala Koteswari. Sir, the Department of Business Ma'am. Sivaram Kameswar Kumar. Scholar.
Sir, very good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be part of this Viva session. I congratulate Rajesh sir and the guide who has taken so much pain in completing this thesis. And this is very great task actually, because behavioral finance is something which is very upcoming topic, which is very challenging. And sir has presented it very well. All the efforts are shown in his presentation, as well as the way he has structured the presentation. And I really hope and pray that all the outcome of his PhD should go productively to the stakeholders. Normally we talk from the perspective of the researcher, but we should look from the perspective of stakeholders. So who are all going to get benefit out of this? I really hope that he will take it forward and publish a book, because that is one possibility, or pass on some important objectives to the next generation or the next person who is taking up. Because many times what happens, a lot of things come up into the research, but we are restricting to our objectives and create a boundary. So I'm sure a lot of things are there which would come up in the research, which sir would like to give it to the next person, passing on the baton to the next person. I really congratulate Rajesh sir, and I don't have any queries as such, but I really congratulate Srinivas sir and other professors who are on the forum. Congratulations once again, Rajesh sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Any other faculty members?
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Any other faculty members to clarify any?
Hello. Interesting. Yeah, Rajesh.
Sir.
From where you have adapted scales for all these your constructs? I
Constructs,
think different constructs that you have used,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and each construct I think so is being seen as adapted from a different author. Yeah, latitude, all those things. Right. So have you conducted a confirmatory factor analysis for these constructs individually?
Usually, sir, it's adapted scale, sir.
Yeah, when it is adapted from somebody else, so what's called do confirmatory factor analysis, CFA, I think. Have you done that or not?
Yes, sir. Complementary factor analysis is done, sir.
So I think you didn't show the results in any of the slides.
Yes, sir. Measurement model and this structural model done,
For
sir.
measuring the direct relationships with the constructs, yes, you have shown the results.
Yes,
For
sir.
each factor, for each construct, I think.
Construct the first order measurement and second order measurement is carried for the CFA, sir.
These are all for measuring all the relationships. I think
Okay. Yes, sir.
for
You mean
each
to say that
construct or each
exploratory factor
the
analysis?
question that you have adapted, I think you didn't
Yes, sir.
conduct any kind of confirmatory factor analysis for
The
confirm
complementary factor analysis
factor.
is similar to for the questionnaire. So, which is I have taken for the study, sir, some items, sir. For that, I have done for the first order measurement and second order measurement in model, and to discriminate validity and convergent validity done, sir. And after that, based upon that structural equation modeling.
Yeah, where are the results? For confirming each factor, have you done any kind of work?
Sir.
For confirming the factors, so you have adapted the skills from somebody else.
Yes, sir.
So for that, you are saying that I have done the confirmatory factor analysis for all those constructs.
Yes.
But that results, where the results are?
Yes, sir. Actually, I didn't kept it here, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. I didn't kept it here, sir. Sorry.
Any other questions from other faculty members and scholars? Research scholars? Questions? Research scholars?
Research scholars are requested to ask questions.
They are there or not? Yogendra, Nagendra,
Perception.
Prabhakar, Sudhakar Pubati.
Yes, madam. The risk perception is required for actually for the investors and traders in order to reduce the losses and minimize the losses and maximize the returns. So demographically, social economic variables are identified. And apart from that, remaining independent variable and dependent variable related to the conceptual model in order to identify the risk perception and investment intention.
Any other questions?
Sir, Rajesh sir.
Please ask the question.
Sir, Rajesh sir, what is your total population size, sir?
Total population size 45,000 change for Anantapur town and Bangalore city 75,000, sir. It's a finite population, sir. It's a finite population. The
What
data
basis?
is identified.
On what basis you are selected 412, sir? 412.
412 stratified random sampling, sir, where I have I'll show, sir. Stratified random sampling selected, sir. Target respondents 450, sir. Out of that, we have collected the valid respondents 412 for good for the analysis.
Okay,
Anantapur town 412 and Bangalore city 412.
But 412 you considered for analysis.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What method you applied, sir, for this in sampling?
Sir, I applied for the total population identified. After that, the minimum sample size that according to Amendment 1967 formula is applied, sir. N is equal to N by 1 plus NE square, which is have used for the finite population, sir.
Okay.
After that, the minimum sample size, minimum sample requirement is taken for the justification of the sampling. 412 is considered, sir.
Good, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Over, huh?
Rajesh sir.
Yeah. Please.
Sir, how does investors' behavioral attitude impacts overall market movement?
Sir, there are various factors which I have discussed, sir, actually related to the rational factors, heuristic factors, prospect factors, and personality factors. And each one having again sub factors that may be influencing, especially when you take into the behavioral finance, behavioral biases sometimes will give good result also. But most of the time, the investor may not get suitable returns comparatively rational investors. The rational investors are more effective comparatively behavioral factors that influence to the investors. So that is the reason there are so many reasons and so many examples are there for each factor, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Any questions? I think if there are no questions, I'll proceed further. Srinaskar, can I proceed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Please.
Now I think I am very happy to proceed. It's, process. Sir, Rajesh,
Sir,
could you hear me?
sir, I can hear you, sir. I can hear you, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
think the audience, most of the audience asked about the sampling method.
Yes, sir.
From my observation, I think this is a probability sampling technique.
Yes, sir.
Also stratified random method. So
Yes, sir. Yes.
you need to further give the sample profile very clearly. Of course, whatever
Yes, sir.
done is okay, fine. But stratas, what are the stratas you have taken? Each strata, what is the population you have taken? How you have taken sample from these strata? Total that you have to mentioned the entire in the table format.
Okay,
Each
sir. Okay.
strata, what is the consideration population, and how you have developed the stratas, on what basis
Yes,
you have developed. That is more relevant and more clear. So
yes,
when you
sir.
are going for publications and other things in future, so be careful. That's my suggestion from my side. And
Yes,
next
sir.
one is, I think, what are the 3 papers you can relate to your research? More relevant. 3
Sir?
papers that you have gone through from literature review. Can you mention those 3 papers which are most relevant to your studies? Just can you show research review of literature? Just
Yes, sir.
name those papers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Some Indian authors also identified, sir, actually. Kiran and D and Rao, US 2019, US 2090, 2005, identifying the investor group segments based on demographic and based upon and other characteristics. A. Chandra, A. 2008 is related to the decision making in stock market, incorporating psychology with finance. And Benit E. Selvam, factors influencing retail investors' attitude. And Canadian 2015, retail investors, financial risk tolerance and their risk-taking behavior. Mishra R, financial literacy, risk tolerance and stock market participation. So these are the contributors, sir, and majorly related to the suitable to the review.
I think one question raised by Subbarayudu, I think, constructs. Regarding
Yes.
constructs you have taken, the rational
Yes.
and
Yes.
these constructs you have standard scales you have used, na?
Yes, sir. Adopted skills, standard skills use.
Scales. So I think somebody asked about exploratory factor analysis. Of course, these are the already tested scales and these factors that you have taken into consideration already tested and already established. It's fine. Factor analysis is not necessary. Confirmatory factor analysis is compulsory. That you have done.
Yes,
But
sir.
exploratory factor analysis, actually, what is your contribution actually in this? Whatever that is tested, you have tested here, Anantapur and Bangalore. But have you added any new factor, new finding? There is also one important element you have to think of. Future, if you are extending your studies, so what kind of new factors that you can add in addition to those the current factors, so that you can develop a model, robust model, because
Okay.
so many things are changing from time to time. The stock market.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So behavioral factors are changing, and then rational factors are changing. So rational investor is going to behave what he is
Yes,
supposed
sir.
to do. So there is a relationship between the rational and behavioral factors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's why my suggestion is, in future, if you are refining your study for further publication and further research, try to include many other variables from literature review and
Sure, sir.
practical point of view. You can add your own. Suppose sometimes by this time you have completed all the thesis. Now you have some kind of authority on the thesis. So you might be missing some of the important information or factors. Those factors you can
Yes.
reconstruct your structural model. Fine.
Okay. Okay.
Then the next one is measurement model. Somebody asked about measurement model. So you have given the measurement model. You have shown the measurement model. Can you show that model? Measurement model.
Based upon the measurement model, the structure equation model is developed.
Structural model and measurement model.
Measurement model, for the limiting the slides, and I kept for this only for discriminate validity and the direct results I get,
You
sir.
have shown earlier. You have shown one model, basic
Ah,
structural model. That
Research model.
research model. Yes, sir.
research model. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this is actually conceptual model, but when you are talking about measurement model,
Measurement model.
to my understanding, you need to mention the hypothesis also and the arrows.
Yes, sir.
You have given a rational attitude to risk perception.
Yes, sir. That is to be added.
Hypothesis you have to mention on the arrow itself.
Okay.
That is a complete measurement model. Fine?
Okay, sir.
So that
Okay,
you can, but just I'm giving you, of course, no
Sir.
thesis is going to be complete. This is only refinements and you can incorporate when you go for further research
Yes,
and
sir.
publications. Fine?
Sure,
Then I
sir.
think you have done a comparative study, na? So can you mention one glaring difference between Anantapur and Bangalore in terms of investor attitude or rational factor or behavioral
Yes, sir.
attitude? Two glaring factors,
Yes,
differentiating
sir.
factors between Anantapur and Bangalore.
Yes, sir. Company details and the project details, and these details are very much comparatively Bangalore investors understood more than Anantapur town investors, sir. And rationally they are very good comparingly, so that the results wise and everything wise they have analyzed and proper scenario is there, and they are more educated and more awareness as having comparatively Anantapur town, sir.
And what is the reason for selecting these two cities comparison? Many criteria you have selected. Anantapur and Bangalore,
Yes, sir.
nationality is there.
Yes, sir. Because Anantapur town investors investors attitude is so different comparatively Bangalore investors. I want to know the how much significance level is there, significance and positive or not positive effect is there between the Anantapur town and Bangalore city. So that I want to specifically focus that what are the things came into new for last 10 years in Anantapur town. The scenario is developed, sir. Stock market is in understanding and awareness developed. Comparatively, Bangalore also more advanced. I want to know how much significance level is there between the two geographical areas, sir. For that reason only I have taken, sir, because otherwise say, taking the same two type of cities may not generate the same kind of result, may not help for the firms, sir.
Suppose if you conduct same study across different cities across India,
Sir.
then your conclusions can be generalized, or this is only specific to Anantapur and Bangalore?
Specific, sir. My study is specific to Anantapur town and Bangalore city, sir. And so if there's changing some other geographical areas, some changes will be there, sir, based upon the profile of the investors.
But when your research is research, it is also there is policy implications.
Yes, sir.
For policy implications, you need to look at overall India basis, all India basis. Stock
Yes.
market is throughout India.
Yes, sir.
Specifically, I have studied two cities, Anantapur and Bangalore. So that is limited to only Anantapur and.
Anantapur town.
Suppose if you extend your studies, what could be the variables that you can add?
Sir, I'll add for some moderators, sir. Moderators, because mediators I have used in research models, sir. Moderators I have not used it, sir. Moderators like gender, age, and some other things which I use not only for to know the frequency levels, and also to use the advanced tools, and also to think differently about different aspects, and also like to add some other independent variable and mediators, and especially I'll work out on moderators.
So I think now, what do you suggest future researchers on which areas they can concentrate with respect to your topic? What do you suggest to your future researchers
Sure.
with respect to your topic? What are the areas that they can concentrate?
Yes, sir. They can concentrate on various investment avenues, and they can also compare the investors' attitude with linking with their investments, returns, and risk and proportions are more in depth. By taking the risk perception and investment intention sub factors, sub constructs, we can add some more sub constructs, investment decisions, so that we can able to find the new results, sir. Because and the rational attitude, heuristic factors, and prospect factors and personality factors are having so many sub factors. But my research study is not having so many.
Okay, fine. Then in your
Interested.
study, in the study research, the objectives and hypothesis is there. So risk perception you have done, na?
Yes, sir.
That is one of the important critical components.
Yes.
Risk perception, risk attitude of the
Yes.
investors. That is very important. You are not reflecting objectives. If I am correct,
Sorry.
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
So that is not reflected in your objectives. Risk is very important, no?
Yes, sir.
subsequently you have analyzed and then you have done very good thing. That's one thing. And the second thing is your interpretations and conclusions are mostly in general, but not supported by your findings. In the sense, the findings only are explaining, but in a descriptive manner. But you supported by a quantitative figures.
Yes.
So you have given a general statement as if I have done some review of literature and describing the thing. So object-wise conclusions are fine, good. But one thing is when you are concluding this thing, your interpretations, that should be supported by a quantitative figures. It's very important. So that means people should understand that you have taken from the studies only, not from outside. Fine. So that is one small suggestion from my side. Of course, sometimes you are going to miss. But one thing is, I think recently in the budget also it is recent budget
Yes,
also. What is the implication of your thesis, the stock market? Can you tell some few words on this? How do you connect? Recent
Sir,
budget, yeah.
yes, sir. Sir, I have not gone through detail of the budget, budget
In
scenario.
the recent budget, they have mentioned about this cryptocurrency and digital currency. How
Yes, sir.
digital
Yes, sir.
currency and cryptocurrency are going to affect the investors' perceptions and behavioral attitudes? In general, you can say that.
Yes, sir.
That is very important. Maybe I think from my I'm not.
Application part is more important.
Yes. So I think now, Mr. Rajesh, you are a faculty there.
Sir?
You are a faculty. Are you
Yes,
working
sir.
anywhere?
He not here, sir. Puttaparthi, sir.
Okay.
Puttaparthi, sir.
Support you are working. Okay, fine. So Rajesh, thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Very good. Nice piece of work done, and you refine it, and do it better in future. So thank you. All the best. Congratulations to Rajesh, and congratulations to
Sir.
Sir Srinivas for coming up with a very valuable, nice piece of work.
Thank you very much,
Now I declare that I recommend Rajesh,
sir,
based on the questions raised by the guardians and research scholars and faculty members, nicely satisfactorily have responded to the questions. And based on that, I recommend D. Rajesh Babu for the award of PhD from Department of Business Management, Yogi Ramana University. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. As a formal Thanksgiving note, I would like to thank Professor Acharya Garu for giving his valuable time. And I know always he is positive towards our department, and at any point of time, we are taking liberty, though he is very senior professor and he is very serious person. Always he is having positive attitude towards our department. We are so lucky, and our staff members are so lucky. Our research scholars are lucky in that way. And thank you very much, sir. And I would like to thank our Board of Studies Chairman, Dr. Y. Subraidu, for giving his valuable time for conduct of these proceedings. And I would like to thank our S.V. Subbareddy, Dr. S.V. Subbareddy, who is coordinator of this department. Of course, they are very good friends of mine, but positionally they are helping me a lot. And I would like to thank our Professor Raghunath Reddy, who is from Commerce Department, and presently he is Vice Principal, and he is so busy, but he could spare some time for me. And apart from this, I would like to thank our Dr. Sarita, our S. Subbareddy, and Amrit Prasad Reddy, and so on, for sparing their valuable time. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
I also thankful to Dr. Subbareddy Garu and
yes, sir.
Then Subbarayadu Garu,
yes, sir.
and
thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All other members present here. Thanks a lot for giving opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Again, once again,
yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, and congratulations to Professor Srinivas Garu and Rajesh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations, Rajesh sir.